Welcome to Generation Next, Life and Politics with Chuck Hobbs. I'm joined today by Eric Eggers, Sika Green, Liz Ricci, and Cedric Jones. How's everybody doing today?
Pretty good.
Pretty good.
Okay. Very pleased to be here. One of the things that I think is so critical is that this week, obviously, President Obama, barely a week after Andrew Cuomo, governor of New York, signed legislation banning certain weapons in that state, has signed 23, I believe, executive orders dealing with, obviously, the issue of gun control. I know that we have a good group here. We've got some Democrats, we have some independents, we have some Republicans in name only. And so with that in mind, I just want to talk a little bit about whether we believe that these executive orders will actually do anything or whether it is much ado about nothing. Now, I'll get the ball rolling. I think it's much ado about nothing to a great extent. Obviously, I think that if there's anything I like about it, it would be the mental health background, more cops on the street. Anytime you can talk about that, I think it's good. I actually was proud of him that he didn't touch the assault weapons ban portion because I think that he already is called a socialist all the time. And if he had done that, I think that the argument would have been even greater for those independents on the right who has a concern about the imperial presidency. Anybody else?
I think if you talk about winners, right? I think winners would be the president within the demographic that elected him. I think they're probably pleased to see what looks like a proactive measure taken by a guy that they're looking to provide that. And from my perspective, I think a winner are gun dealers, right? I mean, you say it's much ado about nothing. Not on social media by people that own and value the Second Amendment. I think you've seen a spike, a continued spike in gun sales, and I think all this is going to do is lead to record sales of high magazine clips and the types of weapons that the rumors are that you'll see eliminated. I also think that the measures that you mentioned about mental health provisions are going to be very problematic for people who, as you mentioned, would like to call the president a socialist. They're going to see the idea of a doctor asking them about their firearms as an invasion and intrusion of their private lives. And I think that that's going to be a major problem for them.
Would that cause any of you concern if you went to your doctor and he asked about whether or not you have weapons at home?
Look, the mental thing I don't mind, but I don't want to be questioned by a doctor to see if I'm mentally fit to have the gun. I don't even know if you can. We talked about this last week, and I don't know if you can actually come up with a metric or test or questions that can say, okay, he's fit or she's fit or not fit.
I believe that everything is connected, and we already don't have enough care for those who are mentally ill anyway. So for me to believe that any background checks as far as your mental illness or are you mentally capable of owning a weapon, you can't make me believe that that can be enforced.
When you think about the Newtown massacre from last month, the guy clearly mentally deranged, but he didn't go buy these weapons. No. His mother bought them. Right. And so you have to ask yourself, is this really going to solve anything? Because if you have a committed lunatic or if you have a committed thug, and they don't even talk about all the killings in Chicago, Miami, the inner cities and what have you, it's not going to stop the thugs from getting weapons on the black.
Violence will beget violence.
The violence that has happened when you look at Columbine, I mean, that was also children who got guns from their parents' houses. So we're just talking about an overall responsibility here.
Right.
And we talked about that a little bit the last time. It's a responsibility that I think everybody has, gun owners have. I believe in the right to bear arms. I don't believe that assault weapons should be legal. I don't think you should be able to have those. I just don't see a reason for killing Bambi with a Uzi.
But isn't part of what makes America great is that you may not see a reason for it, and there's a lot of things we don't need a reason for that we can do. The best argument against an assault weapon ban I've heard is that they just don't think it would have prevented the types of these massacres that I think have been the genesis for these actions that we see today. I mean, you mentioned Chicago, right? Chicago has the most strict gun laws of most cities in the country, yet they have, I think, the highest gun crime rate.
Almost 500
Part of what
deaths
these executive orders are doing is saying we need to figure out what are some of the causes of gun violence in this country. And it actually allows the CDC to research that, and they haven't been able to do that for 17 years. And I think we do need to know what's the correlation or what's the connection between video games. And I think we should research that, and that's one of the things that these executive orders does. We should be able to research why are people violent in our society.
Again, I say the mental stability and all that. I'm cool with that. It's how do you come up with the test and the metrics? Who says that this is going to be the standard for can I have a gun or not?
There's a standard for if you can drive a car. If you've had a seizure in Florida, you can drive a car for 6 months.
You couldn't get 50 states of politicians together to say that we're going to come up with a standard way to say who's effectively able to carry a gun.
But just because you can't have, because it's an aspirational goal doesn't mean you shouldn't.
No. And again, I'm all for, my argument is who's going to come up with the...
Well, do you need 50 states? Probably not.
No.
But can you get 270 votes in the House? I doubt it, right? Or whatever, whatever the standard is.
Right.
I mean, that to me would be the big issue. You've got a divided government now,
right.
And again, and I see this being a real. I think that's why you saw the executive orders, and I think the assault weapons ban being left to Congress is basically saying we're not going to get that done.
And I do think that it's not going to get done, and I think that heading into 2014, I think that it will be very interesting to see whether or not Democrats or Republicans get the advantage for that, because clearly President Obama and Democrats will bludgeon Republicans, saying that you had all these kids died in December of 2012, and look, Republicans wouldn't even take responsibility for that, whereas Republicans are going to keep pushing the narrative with respect to they're trying to take your guns from you, they're trying to keep your rights from the Second Amendment, and that's going to be interesting going forward.
It'll be interesting to see who they nominate for the ATF director. That's in the order too.
Well, I want to go back to the whole CDC study because I think that that's an important piece of this. And one thing you guys know about me is that I believe that a lot of the publicity and the PR behind everything that's done, this 24-hour news cycle, the way that violence is portrayed on TV, when you've got these video games, and it is making an impact. And because when people feel like they are invisible, they will find a way to get attention. And because we are in a society where everything that's done is tweeted, it's Facebooked, it's on cable TV 24 hours a day, it's going to be interesting to see what those studies show.
Sika, as a public relations expert, do you think that this was a boon for the president this week? Was this the right thing for him to do?
I think it was a day late and a dollar short. It should have come before the governor of New York. We all know New York already has a ban on guns. I don't think you can own a gun in New York. But for it to come after he did what he did, I think it was a little late.
Assault rifle or a gun?
I think you can own a gun in New York State, maybe not in New York City, but I think that the law
is it a gun? Is a gun or is a gun a period?
New York City. Well, because that's what Classico.
Burris, got in all that trouble about it years ago.
But I do think it was probably to help boost the PR. You got a lot of things coming up.
And sadly, I think the legacy of this is it just exacerbates the divide that we see in this country.
Yeah, I'll give you the last word on that.